queerness is not the problem. A lack of understanding queerness, a lack of accepting queerness is a problem. There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with us. We're just different. And the same goes for being autistic, for being ADHD, for being neurodivergent, mentally ill, traumatized. Like, we have different brains. We have different ways of being. And that doesn't make us bad or wrong or morally less, no matter what any old white man with a pen says about us. Hello, my friends, and welcome back to a very special Valentine's Day episode of the Neurodivergent Creative Podcast. I'm going to try so hard not to cry this time, but we will be talking about mental illness. So, I make no guarantees. But we're not just going to be talking about mental illness. We're going to be talking about the sense of aliveness that mental illness takes from us, and also capitalism. I think capitalism and mental illness are very intertwined these days because it is hard not to be depressed and anxious when you see the world collapsing around you. The fact that we still have to get up and go to work is absolutely baffling right now. I don't care for it. But I'm here and I'm talking to you and we're going to talk about some stuff. First of all, I would love to shout out our February Patreon supporters. These are people who joined us in January and thus are financially supporting the February episodes, including several gifted months from one member who saw that I was doing a membership drive and decided to gift 10 people a month on my Patreon. That was amazing and unprecedented. So Deidre, a special shout out for you for being like, I love this Caitlin crazy person. I'm gonna give the gift of that person to 10 more people. Love that for all of us. I hope you guys love it in the Patreon and I hope that you decide to stick around. So without further ado, here is the list. It is a big list. Okay, we have Eileen, Alexis, Amaris, Atan, Avery, Bianca, Bird, Shelb, which is an adorable name, Shelb, Nell, Dan, Deidre, our rock star with the gifted memberships, Emily, Frankie, Gada, Bay, Jesse, Kitty, Crowan, Mia, Brennan, Nicola, Isley, Sarah, Samaya, Stephanie, another Stephanie, Beth, Theodora, and Teresa. So thank you all for being Patreon supporters of the Neurodivergent Creative Podcast. I love you so much. And we are still doing a membership drive. We are still trying to reach $500 a month, which will bring us from 2 episodes up to 4 episodes a month. Please do it because I love talking to you and I love sharing ideas with you. And honestly, I could just really use your $3. I'm a disabled neurodivergent creative, and this is what I do for a living. I inspire people to make their own weird art, to tell their weird stories, to talk about those things, and to normalize not doing it for hustle. So if you fuck with that, you're going to fuck with me. I love it. $3, you're in. Thank you. So now, on to the topic at hand. So I was just on a client call, and obviously political anxiety came up. I have been working on the political anxiety with a lot of my writing clients, creative clients, everybody, because it sucks right now. It extra super sucks because the United States is fascism's been here, but now we're oh, hell yeah, it's fascism time. So that's rough. And it's especially rough to be a marginalized person, to be disabled, to be neurodivergent, to be, honestly, a woman, but especially a queer, trans, non-binary person of any marginalized gender. So it's hard out here right now. And this client that I was on a call with said that he's sort of fueled by spite sometimes. He doesn't worry about guess I'll die kind of a thing. That's not the way his depression goes. His depression is well, fuck all y'all. I'm going to live out of spite. And I love that. But then I said something that sent him reaching to write down a note. I said, yes, stay alive out of spite, but you also have to remember to be alive and to live a joyful life. Because if we're just surviving, just living another day, that's not the same as this sense of being alive and participating in our aliveness. And this is something that has really come up for me as I'm unpacking all of this obsessive compulsive disorder stuff. If you're new, if you missed the last 2 episodes, I cried all through January's podcasts because I was talking about unpacking the fact that I have pretty much had OCD probably since like early childhood. And it just sort of became my operating system over time. And I was very driven by purity and morality and being a good person and like basically losing my goddamn mind if anything pushed me outside the bounds of like those rules that were getting more and more strict the more and more I went through life. And I spent last year, most of 2024, really not participating in my life. I was keeping my body alive, but I was not participating in my own aliveness. And that is something that like I never knew that there was a difference before really, but now I can very starkly see that there's a big difference between surviving and thriving in your life. And it feels unsafe to thrive right now. It feels unsafe to make unapologetically queer art. It feels unsafe to write feminist stories. It feels unsafe to celebrate your disability, your race, your gender, your anything that is outside the new norm, because it feels like we'll be punished. And we may be punished. But another thing I saw recently is a photograph of people outside Stonewall, like the Stonewall Inn where the first Pride happened. And those people knew that they were going to get arrested for being out at a gay club. But they still went to the gay club because you can't just survive but hide. I mean, you can. Like, please. This is not a moral judgment on you doing what you need to do to stay safe and to feel safe. But this is a permission slip to express yourself however you wish to do, because like they don't get to take that from us. We get to stay joyful. We get to keep our joy. We get to keep the joy of being queer. Like look back on the episode that I did in June with Petra Vega, where we talked about just like the joy of queerness. Like queerness does so much for us. And no matter what happens, no matter what executive orders get signed, no matter what happens to marriage equality, queerness is not the problem. A lack of understanding queerness, a lack of accepting queerness is a problem. But it's never been us for being queer. Like, there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with us. We're just different. And the same goes for being autistic, for being ADHD, for being neurodivergent, mentally ill, traumatized. Like, we have different brains. We have different ways of being. And that doesn't make us bad or wrong or morally less, no matter what any old white man with a pen says about us. So, fuck you guys, I'm staying alive. We're doing spite right now. Love that for us. But also not just spite, but the participation in the aliveness. So we have to slow down and small down. We have to exist in the micro. We have to do things that take time in our own homes and in our own lives, because the onslaught of political attacks right now, that's a strategy. That is a tactic to abuse and overwhelm us. So the fact that this new Republican administration came in swinging and signed infinity executive orders on day one. A lot of those executive orders have already been stopped by judges or like stopped before they could get anywhere. But we don't hear about that. We just hear about the onslaught of what they are doing and what they are doing and what they are doing, not how they are being stopped and how they are being stopped and how they are being stopped, because the onslaught is the point. It is a demoralization tactic. It is designed to keep us overwhelmed and terrified and like just online waiting for the next horrible thing to happen. And so how we can fight against that is to say, I'm not going to give you any views today, Mr. President. I am going to turn off my phone and I am going to go learn how to make a sourdough starter. Like, doesn't matter. Go for a walk with your dog, paint something, sculpt something, break something, punch something, like do something in your house, in your life, because all that news is still going to be there. But you do not owe it to anybody to absorb it as soon as it breaks. That is a recipe for staying outside of your own aliveness. where the joy is, where the humanity is, where the love is, and the enjoyment of life. That is so important. They're trying to take away us loving who we are through legislation. You can't legislate away me loving that I am queer and autistic. You can't stop me. And I only remember that you can't stop me when I shut up and get quiet and get small and do something in my house or in my neighborhood or walk around my block or call my sister. Super micro things are where we build the resilience and the reason that we are staying alive out of spite. It's important. It's important to stay alive. It's important to be alive and to participate in being alive. There's so much good stuff, but they're overwhelming the good stuff, the good micro stuff, the neighborhood lesbian who rescues cats. They don't want us to know about her. They want us to freak out about all these other things. And we're not doing that right now. Right now, for 5 minutes, just chill out, listen to the sound of my voice, look at my cute little face if you're on YouTube, and just be here and breathe. And they hate that. They hate it when we just exist and breathe and don't engage with the news for 5 minutes. They want us to be scared 24 hours a day. And I refuse to be scared 24 hours a day. I know that I can do it because that's what OCD feels like for me. It feels like being terrified of doing something wrong, of being punished, of being taken away from everyone that I love every minute of every day if I don't make the best choices. And I'm opting out of that for my own mental health. And thus, I'm also opting out of it when it's Elon Musk running his mouth, And this is not to say that you can never check in. Stay informed. But stay informed about, pick 3 to 5 topics to stay informed about. You do not have to read every single headline because, again, the overwhelm is the point. The overwhelm is strategic. So don't fall for his strategy, for their strategy. This is a Republican problem now. Republicans need to take ownership of the fascist dictator that they have chosen to install to run a country. And I have to have hope that we're going to survive this. I know a lot of people aren't, but we're going to survive as long as we can. And we survive through art, and we survive through writing songs and loving each other and building community resources. We survive because of the micro. We survive because of human connection. You're not surviving just by reading the headlines. You then have to take an action. So find that level, find that threshold of I read the headlines, I read the executive orders, I am well versed on these few topics, and then I take those topics to the micro level and I join a community organizing group, right? Democratic Socialists of America have chapters all over the place. There's all sorts of grassroots organizations and coalitions and stuff that are already doing work that you can join in. You do not have to invent a way to solve these problems. There are already people and organizations and experienced activists who are doing the work and who can guide us in doing the work. Our job is to stay alive and stay in that aliveness. Not all the time. Some days you're not going to want to shower, and I get that. But just put on some clean undies and put some dry shampoo in your hair and go write a really rageful poem or send a card to your grandma, Little baby things matter. They matter so much because in history, right, when people look back on this era and dig out the archaeology of queer people in 2025, they're going to need to see that we loved and that we had passion and that we created things and that we took care of each other. That's what I want. That's what I want history to look like. I know that politically we are up against a lot right now and it's not safe out there. It's not safe. This is not a safe place to be. I'm in the US, but that doesn't mean that we have to go quietly, So have some great sex and write a book. Maybe those two are related. Maybe they're not. And come hang out with me and my group of diverse neurodivergent weirdos in the Neurodivergent Creative Pod. We are making weird art and talking about it. And I love you so much. And hopefully you can find a way to embrace the micro just for a little bit, just little bits at a time. That's how we grow. Okay. Bye.
Approach and tell you a joke to lighten your load and help you along, or sing you a song. Do-do-do-do-do. Do-do-do-do. Do-do-do-do-do. Do-do-do-do.